Hello, Grade 4. This is a recording video for our first unit in the English book, Think It Through. In this video, we're going to review everything we've studied so far in comprehension, vocabulary, phonics, grammar, and writing in Unit 1. If you want to watch this video, please refer to our school website www.ischooli.com or to our Facebook pages ISI Grade 4A and Grade 4B. Let's start. The first weekly concept was clever ideas. In this week, we studied where do good ideas come from. And we analyzed that people come up with good and creative ideas every day. Creative ideas can be the result of an accident, brainstorming, observation, or inspiration. In this week, we studied different vocabulary. The first one, brainstorm, which means to solve a problem by having a group of people all think freely and come up with different ideas. Flattened, it means to make something flatter or more smooth. Frantically, to act wildly excited because of fear. Muttered is when you speak in a very low voice. Official, it means to be properly approved or authorized. Original, to do or think about something new and unique. Stale, which means old or not fresh. And gracious, which means to showing kindness and being good. You can also refer to our practice book, Your Turn, on page 1, where you may find sentences on these vocabulary. And this week we read The Dragon Problem, which is a story about Liang and Princess Peng, where he wanted to marry the princess, but he had to kill the fearless dragon to get to marry her, and which he did, and they got married at the end, and they lived happily ever after. This story is a fairy tale because it has the characteristics of the fairy tale, which are the main character must go on a long journey or complete a very hard task. It contains imaginary creatures such as the dragon, and it ends happily. You may also refer to Your Turn practice book on page 6 to review the characteristics of a fairy tale. Moreover, in the first week, we studied the comprehension skill. The first one was sequence, which is the order in which the key story events take place. And when we put the story events in sequence, we were able to understand more the setting, characters, and the plot of the dragon problem. You may refer to your practice book on page 2 to review the sequence of the dragon problem story. And as for the vocabulary strategy, we studied the synonyms. A synonym is a word that means almost the same thing as the unfamiliar word that you read in the text. And sometimes the author uses a synonym to help you understand the unfamiliar word. And most of the times you have to look for the synonyms and the surrounding words and the sentence for the clues. For such clues, you may refer to Your Turn on page 7 to review the synonyms. The first grammar lesson was about sentences. In this lesson, we studied what is a sentence. A sentence is a group of words that shows a complete thought, while a fragment or a sentence fragment is a group of words also, but it does not show a complete thought. We said that every sentence must start with a capital letter and it must end with a punctuation mark. Punctuations can be a full stop, an exclamation mark, or a question mark. These punctuation differs according to the types of sentences. So we took 4 types of sentences. A statement, which is a sentence that tells something. For example, I like to play soccer. This is a statement. The second sentence is an exclamation sentence. It is the sentence that expresses surprise, excitement, or a strong feeling you want to show. For example, Juan scored the winning goal. It ends with an exclamation mark. A command is a sentence that tells someone to do something when you ask someone to do something for you. For example, open the door, close the window, drink your juice. It ends with a full stop and it always starts with a verb. The fourth type is the question, which is a sentence that asks something. For example, do you like to play soccer? And it ends with a question mark. You may refer to your grammar book from pages 2 till page 5 to review this lesson. In the first week, we reviewed the short vowels. Vowel letters are 5, the A, E, I, O, and U. And their short sounds are respectively A, E, I, O, A. A is for ant, is for egg, I is for ink, O for octopus, and A as an umbrella. You may refer to the phonics book from pages 1 till 6 to review these short vowels. Moreover, we studied the inflectional endings, which are the ed, s, and ing. These are endings that they create new verb forms or tenses. We studied the words or the base words that do not change the spelling in their spelling when we add these inflectional endings. For example, spill, spilled, spilling, jump, jumped, jumping. The base word stays the same. We agreed that adding ed to a base word puts this word in the past tense or the verb in the past tense. For example, pack, packed, follow, followed. And adding s and ing to a base word puts the action in the present tense. For example, stop, stops, jump, jumping. You may refer to Your Turn, page 8, to review these inflectional endings. The concept of week 2 was think of others. How do your actions affect others? Our actions can affect others in a good way or a bad way. For this, we are accountable for everything we do or we act with others because it may affect them. If you look at the picture here, these two girls are whispering in the class. The girls could be making someone feel left out or lowering their self-esteem. For this, we have to make sure that our actions are always good, because sometimes it may have effects we don't intend. So our actions are the causes that make people either like us or not like us. Some good actions might be sharing in the class, raising our hands to respect the class environment and rules, helping our family at home. And other bad actions can be speaking in our friend's back and not respecting the rules in the class. The vocabulary we studied were advice, which means to give one's opinion or to inform someone with something you want. Desperately, when you act desperately, it means to try anything to change a very hopeless situation. Hesitated means when you think about something twice before doing it. Humiliated is to feel ashamed about yourself. Inspiration, it's a person or a thing that stirs the mind, feelings, and imagination in us. Self-esteem is to have respect for oneself, for your own self. Uncomfortably, which means uneasily, and accountable means to be responsible for something. You may refer to the practice book, Your Turn on page 11, to see the sentences on this vocabulary. And this week we read the story The Talent Show, which is a story that shows how people's actions affect others. The two main characters in the story are Mora and Tina. They wanted to apply for a talent show in the school, and Tina imposed her opinion on her friend Mora that she wants to do the talent show in pairs. And then Mora stood up for herself, and she asked her friend in a very polite way that she wants to do the talent show alone, and then her friend respected her opinion and they did it individually. This story is a realistic fiction because it is a made-up story. The characters, settings, and events in it can exist in real life, and it includes dialogues, which are one of the text features of a realistic fiction. The comprehension skill that we studied in week 2 was the problem and solution. In a realistic fiction story, the main character usually has a problem that needs to be solved. And the steps the character, or Mora here, took to solve the problem make up the story's event or the plot of the story. You can refer to page 13 and 15 to review the problem solving and solution. As for the vocabulary strategy, we studied the idioms in week 2. Idioms are phrases that have a meaning different from the meaning of each word in them. Examples on idioms are like, it is raining cats and dogs, which means it is raining very much. Other examples are, did the cat eat your tongue, which means, why aren't you speaking? Standing up for myself, which means defending yourself. And different idioms are found in your practice book on page 17 to review them. As for the grammar lesson, we studied in week 2 the subjects and predicates. A subject is the name of a person or a thing the sentence is about. It is two types, a simple subject and a complete subject. The simple subject is the main noun or pronoun in the sentence, and the complete subject is the words that are about this simple subject. For example, my friend Lucy lives there. The simple subject is Lucy. It's the main pronoun. And the complete subject is my friend Lucy. They are the words that talk about the subject. As for the predicate, it tells what the subject is or does. In other words, it is the verb in the sentence. It is also a simple predicate and a complete predicate. A simple predicate is the main verb or yes, it's the main verb in the sentence, but the complete predicate is the verb phrase or the words that speaks about the verb. For example, my friend Lucy lives there. Lives is the simple predicate, and lives there, this phrase lives there, is the complete predicate. Now, what is a compound subject and a compound predicate? A compound subject is two or more subjects with the same verb or the same predicate. The subjects are usually joined by and or or. For example, bananas and oranges are my favorite fruits. What is the compound subject here? Bananas and oranges. A compound predicate is two or more predicates with one same subject. The simple predicates in a compound predicate are usually joined to by and, but, or. For example, the baby screamed and cried. How many verbs do we have in this sentence? 2. Screamed and cried. And how many subjects? 1. The baby. So screamed and cried is the compound predicate. You may refer to your grammar book to review this lesson. As for the phonics, we learned in week 2 the long A sound. Long A is spelled in different ways in the word. It can come as A alone, as major. It can come as A and I, like snail. It can come as E and A, like steak. It can come as A and magic E at the end of the word, like snake. It can come as A and Y at the end of the word too, like hay and may. And it can come as E and Y, like they, at the end of the word. Moreover, we can see here in the box 8. So it can come as E-I-G-H, 8, wait. This is long A. Refer to your phonics book to review it. One of my favorite lessons in Unit 1 was Week 3, Take Action. How do people respond to natural disasters? Natural disasters are events such as volcanoes, floods, forest fires, earthquakes, tornadoes that are caused by nature. When these kinds of events occur, it causes a difficult or dangerous situation to the people. So there are people who are trained to respond to natural disasters. These people are rescuers. They search for people after a natural disaster who may be trapped or lost and try to rescue them and find them. Other examples about how do people respond to natural disasters is when helicopters can hover over a fire and drop water on it to put it off. So in this lesson, we learned different kinds of natural disasters and how do people or rescuers respond to them when they occur. The vocabulary of week 3 were collapse, which means to fall down. A crisis, which is a difficult or dangerous situation. Destruction, which is the great or huge damage. Hazard is something that can cause harm or injury to people. Severe is something very harsh or serious. Substantial, something substantial is of a great amount or a huge size. Unpredictable, it means not able to tell before. And alter means to make different or change. You may refer to your practice book on page 21 to see sentences on this vocabulary. In this week, we read the text A World of Change, which is a text that tells about natural disasters and how do people respond to them. In the text, we read that natural disasters are two types in general. Some of them happen very slow and in a steady way, so people cannot see them. And others happen very quickly and they are fast and powerful. This text is an expository text because it tells facts about a certain topic, which is the natural disasters, and this text or this topic can happen in our real life. So in an expository text, it must be about a real person, an actual event, a real place, or a real thing that the text tells real information or facts about it. Moreover, A World of Change includes text features, which are the headings and the diagrams that come in an expository text. What are diagrams? Diagrams are pictures that label things. We find them in science books mostly. If you refer to page 53 in your reading writing workshop, A World of Change, there is a diagram of the volcano. The comprehension skill we learned in week 3 is the compare and contrast, which is a text structure, kind of a text structure. When the author uses compare and contrast, he shows how things are alike and different. Refer to page 24, 25 and 23 in your turn practice book to review the compare and contrast in the World of Change and in another text. As for the vocabulary strategy, in week 3 we studied the multiple meaning word. Multiple meaning words are words that have more than one meaning. In A World of Change, we came across some multiple meaning words such as place in the first paragraph. Some of these changes take place slowly over many years. Place is a multiple meaning word. It can come in a sentence as the place where we live, or place in taking place as happening. Other multiple meaning words are found in your practice book on page 27 and in your writing book, in your writing copybook, where we got multiple meaning words and we put the sentences on them. As for the phonics lesson, we studied the long E. You may refer to your phonics book from pages 15 till 17 to review words with long E. Long E is the most vowel sound that has different spelling ways. Long E can be spelled as E alone, as in zebra. It can be spelled as double E, as in tree, B, C. It can be spelled as E and magic E, as in concrete, sneeze. It can be spelled as E and A alone, like in healer, league. And it can be spelled as E and A with Y at the end of the word, like weary. It can be spelled as I and E, like chief and brief. It can be spelled as E and Y at the end of the word too, like donkey and honey. It can be spelled as Y alone at the end of the word, like family, happily, sadly. Moreover, we took the plurals in this week. To change a base word from a singular to plural, you usually add s or es to the end of the word. For most nouns, you add s to form the plural at the end, like cards, books, toys. But there's a special case for the nouns that end with these sounds below. Sh sound, ch sound, x sound, z sound, s, and double s. We add for them es to the end of the word. For example, box becomes boxes with es. Dish, with sh sound at the end of the word, it becomes dishes with es. You need to memorize these sounds to know when to add s or es to the noun to change it into plurals. As for the fourth weekly concept, it was ideas in motion. We studied in this week how can science help us understand how do things work. We agreed that science is about inquiry and about asking questions to find a solution or the answer about the unfamiliar things. We studied about different forces and like gravity, acceleration, friction, and another scientific words. As for the vocabulary of week 4, we studied these words below. Accelerate, it means to move or cause to move faster. Advantage is something that is helpful or useful. Friction is a kind of force between two surfaces that slows objects or stops them. Gravity is another kind of force that pulls objects toward each other. Identity is who a person is or what a thing is. Inquiry is a search for information, and thrilling is very exciting. You can refer to the vocabulary worksheet of week 4 and the practice book on page 31 for sentences on this vocabulary. As for the reading part of week 4, we read The Big Race, which is a narrative nonfiction text. It is a story that shows us how science can help the two boys understand how objects move. So the genre is narrative nonfiction. Because it tells a story where the events, characters, and setting can exist in real life. It includes facts and examples about a certain topic, which was about the science and motion. And it often includes text features such as speech bubbles, headings, and illustrations. Moving to the comprehension skill, we studied the cause and effect. A cause is why something happens, and an effect is what happened. In our reading text, we saw words or signal words such as because, due to, so, and as a result. These are words used in a cause and effect text. For example, when Clara applies force to one stool, the effect, the stool moves. Another example, Clara pushes both stools, then the effect is both stools move together. Clara applies more force to one of the stools, then the effect is one stool moves farther. You may refer to page 36 in your turn to get to know more or review the cause and effect. Also pages 30, 33, 34, 35. As for the vocabulary strategy, we studied in week 4 the context clues. Context clues are the definitions, examples, or restatements around the unfamiliar word that help us get the meaning of this word. For example, as mentioned in the text, Clara continued, a force is a push or a pull. Forces cause things to move or cause a change in motion. So the unfamiliar word here is force. There's a definition, is a push or a pull. So this is called the context clues. You may refer to page 37 to review other sentences with context clues. As for the grammar lesson, we continued studying about clauses, and here we studied in week 4 about the complex sentence. Refer to your grammar book from pages 16 till 20. What is a complex sentence? First of all, to start reviewing this, we have to review the clauses. A clause is a group of words that has a subject and a predicate or a verb. There are two types of clauses, an independent clause, which can stand alone in a sentence, and a dependent clause, which cannot stand alone in a sentence or does not have a meaning alone in a sentence. This dependent clause usually begins with a subordinating conjunction, like before, when, because, why, whose, whom, which. Subordinating conjunctions are two types: relative pronouns, which are who, whose, whom, which, and that, and relative adverbs, which are where, when, and why. Now, what is a complex sentence? A complex sentence, it includes one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. For example, I like people who are friendly. This is a complex sentence. It has one independent clause, I like people, and one dependent clause, are friendly, joined with a relative pronoun, which is who. Sometimes a sentence can start with a dependent clause. When a sentence starts with a dependent clause and with a subordinating conjunction, this dependent clause must end with a comma and then we finish the sentence. For example, before I go to bed, I put a comma. Why? Because this is a dependent clause that starts with before. Before I go to bed, for example, I brush my teeth. This is a complex sentence. Remember that if a subordinating clause, subordinating conjunction does not start the sentence, we do not put a comma. So we only put a comma when the sentence starts with a dependent clause starting with a subordinating conjunction. As for the phonics of week 4, we studied the long I. A long I is spelled as I alone, like climb. I and E like pie, tie. I and magic E like pride, wide. IGH like height and slight. And Y as sky, spy at the end of the word. Please refer to the phonics book from pages 20 till page 23 to review the long I. The last lesson we took in Unit 1, Week 5, is putting ideas to work. How can starting a business help others? A new business can be something very new, innovative, or something found already in your community. But to start with this business, one must have an idea about what does he want to do and a plan to make the idea work. Starting a business can provide goods and services that other people need. So a business or the idea of a business comes from the need of the community. It can provide things for a community that it didn't have before, or things that the community have but we want to improve. As for the vocabulary that we learned in week 5, the first word is compassionate, is to be sympathetic. Enterprise is something difficult or important that a person plans to do. Exceptional is to be extraordinary. Funds are the money that are ready, that is ready for use. Process is a series of actions performed when making or doing something. Routine is a fixed way or method of doing something. Undertaking is something someone decides to do or start. And innovative is a new thing or something done in a new way. Please refer to the practice book on page 41 for more sentences on this vocabulary and for the vocabulary worksheet week 5 in the file. As for the reading text, we read on week 5 dollars and senses. Dollars and senses is a text or an article about two companies. The first one is Tom's for shoes, and the second one is the Hard Rock Cafes. The writer in this text tries to persuade us that when a big business gets so much money, it is a very good way to share this money or to Give part of this money to the needy people, to the people in need. This text is a persuasive article since it states the writer's opinion about giving money or about charity, and it supports the author's opinion with facts and examples about this kinds of business, and it includes text features which are the headings and the bar graphs found on page 84. As for the comprehension skill, we study the difference between the main idea and the text and the key details. A main idea is the most important idea that the author is talking about or presents in the text. And the key details are the important information that support this main idea. You can refer to your practice book on page 43 and 45 to review it. As for the vocabulary strategies, we studied the suffixes. A suffix is a word part added at the end of a word to change its meaning. Knowing some common suffixes can help you figure out the meaning of the unfamiliar words. The 3 common suffixes that we studied in week 5 were the ly, ive, and full, ful. For example, in immediately, traditionally, successful, innovative, and active. Please refer to your turn on page 47 to review the suffixes. As for the last grammar lesson in Unit 1, it was about the run-on sentences from pages 21 till 24 in the grammar book. What is a run-on sentence? A run-on sentence has 2 or more independent clauses that are combined in a correct way. All the run-on sentences must be corrected then. To fix a run-on sentence, you have 2 ways. You either write separate sentences or you combine the clauses correctly using coordinating conjunctions and a comma before them. There are 3 types of run-on sentences, so 3 types of mistakes. A sentence might have 2 or more independent clauses joined without a coordinating conjunction or comma. A sentence must have 2 or more independent clauses joined with a comma but without a coordinating conjunction. And 3 is when a sentence has too many independent clauses joined in one sentence. As for the last phonics lesson in Unit 1, we studied the long O. Long O can be spelled as O alone, as in tall or doll. It can be spelled as O-N-E, as in woe. It can be spelled as O and magic E, as in stove, or stone, coat. It can be spelled as O and A, as in roasting, goal. And it can be spelled as O and W, as in lower, or as in shadow. The last thing we're going to review today is the writing part. In Unit 1, we learned the descriptive paragraph. What is a descriptive paragraph? It describes how something or someone looks or feels. In a descriptive paragraph, you can describe a size, the color, and a place, a thing, a food, a restaurant, or anything you have to talk about your own impression and your own thoughts about it. In a descriptive paragraph, you need to let your readers use their senses while reading, and their imaginary too. For this, you need to use different adjectives, which are the describing words, and a lot of descriptive details. Do not forget to start your paragraph with a topic sentence that includes what are you going to talk about. And then you write different details in different sentences, detail 1, sentence 1, detail 2, 3, 4, and at the end you end it with a concluding sentence. Please make sure that you use correct punctuation, start each sentence with a capital letter, and start your paragraph with a small space. Thank you for watching this video and good luck in your English exam and much love to you, grade 4.